If NoFap actually worked, then how can you see people on their 300th, 500th, 1000th relapse still trying over and over again to get over their addiction? At some point, if you keep on failing at something over and over, you have to begin asking, are you the problem or is your technique the problem? And that's why I want to show you why NoFap is actually your problem. Ironically, by attempting to quit porn by getting on NoFap, you're actually making it impossible to get over your addiction. That's because NoFap makes getting over a porn addiction seem as if it's an uphill battle, that you're fighting this unbeatable monster which you have to go to war with yourself every day just to have a chance of getting over. In this video, I'm going to show you all of the misleading myths from NoFap that is probably holding you back from overcoming your addiction, and also the secret yet obvious things that NoFap doesn't tell you that make quitting porn extremely easy. I personally was on NoFap for like 4 years, and this whole time I was constantly relapsing, and I didn't get any success. I was just in the same spot the whole time. And the only way I actually quit my addiction was by leaving NoFap entirely and changing my mindset in regards to porn and addiction. And once I did that, I quit in literally a month. So first of all, I'm gonna tell you all of the false information that NoFap tells you that is ironically making you addicted to porn. First of all, is the day count. Now, there seems to be this obsession in the NoFap community and adjacent communities with your day count, how long you have abstained from porn, right? Now, this is kind of counterintuitive, and I'm gonna explain why. Would you count the days for something that you naturally want to do? Don't you only count the days for something that feels impossible, feels like a challenge? Like, for example, think of it like this. Do you think that I would count the days that I haven't put a fork in an outlet? Or do you think I count the days that I haven't intentionally burnt my hand on top of a stove? No, because if there's something you don't want to do, there's no challenge in not doing it, right? So you don't need to figure out how many days you haven't been doing it, because that's what you normally are inclined to do, which is not doing it, avoiding it. That's the issue with the day count, because by counting the days you have abstained from porn, you're implying that you actually want to watch porn, that it's something really enjoyable to you, so that you have to literally restrain yourself from doing it. If every day feels like a battle, if every day feels like a challenge to prevent yourself from watching porn, then you probably have a very wrong picture of porn in your mind. To you, it probably seems like this irresistible, ultra pleasurable thing that you have pedestalized. And it's really impossible to avoid something that you put so much value and so much importance onto. Like, imagine counting the amount of days that you haven't gone with drinking water. But that's kind of what people do with NoFap day counts. They're trying to prevent themselves from doing something that they really want to do badly. If you actually genuinely wanted to quit porn, then you would not be concerned about your day count. Because in that scenario, quitting porn would be easy, it would be natural to you. So there's no challenge in having to count the days on it. You'd literally just decide, okay, I'm gonna quit porn, and then you begin your abstinence journey, and then your day count just continuously goes up. You don't have to worry about going back down to zero with any relapse, because you literally want to not watch porn. So the next myth we have is urges. So urges are like this fundamental part of porn addiction, right? You have like these uncontrollable, spontaneous feelings that push you into watching porn that you have to resist, simply. But I want to tell you that urges are not some external entity, it's not an addiction, but it's actually you that creates your own urges. That's because urges are actually just wanting porn in the moment. Our brain is constantly looking for the possible actions or possible things we could be doing in any given moment to give us the max enjoyment, the max pleasure, right? So think about the moments in which you usually end up using porn, right? In those scenarios, your brain is just repeatedly, through habit and repetition, it believes that porn is the most enjoyable thing it can do in that moment. And remember, this can be changed because it's simply based on your beliefs of what's pleasurable and your interpretation of what would help you in specific situations that you end up in. So for example, if you usually end up watching porn at night before you go to bed, that means that to your brain, that situation of right before bed is a time when only porn looks appealing to you. There's no other thing that you can conceive of that would actually be as enjoyable as porn. So urges are really just self-inflicted. It's whenever you decide that porn right now would feel good. That's simply it. That's because you judged all of your other things you could be doing, and you decided, yeah, right now porn is going to be the best option. And this actually ties into my next point. The reason why porn looks so appealing in so many scenarios is because you somehow got brainwashed into believing that porn is irresistible, when in reality, it's literally what you make of it with your mind. So just so you can understand this, think about when you first discovered porn, right? This was before you called yourself addicted. You were probably a lot younger. You were just looking to have fun and you were curious. Your conception of porn back then was that it was this harmless, fun thing that a lot of people do, right? And when you actually started using it for the first few times, that's what you thought of it. That all changed though when you discovered NoFap. Because NoFap, the first thing it says is that you're addicted. This is something that is irresistible, that you have to get over right now because it's destroying you because of how pleasurable it is. You won't be able to enjoy anything else. You weren't exposed to this ultra irresistible language about porn beforehand, but now that you have and you have accepted it, in your head, porn becomes irresistible. If you just went back to yourself when you first discovered porn and it wasn't that big of a deal, it was just something fun and silly that you do in your free time, then you wouldn't actually get as many urges. Your perception of porn would be that it's not as meaningful, it's not as important, and you could probably find other more enjoyable things to do in the moment. So instead of getting urges for porn, you could get urges for maybe reading a book, or playing video games, or just talking to a friend, any other alternative activity. Because relative to porn, nothing else is as enjoyable. But if you are able to go back to your old perspective of porn where it isn't as enjoyable, then you can find things that are as or more enjoyable than it. So you have probably been repeatedly exposed to these myths during your time in NoFap communities and spaces. So what I want you to do is whenever you experience thoughts that are related to these things, when you are thinking how many days I've gone without porn, or that I'm getting an urge right now, or that I'm believing that porn is like really irresistible and the best thing ever, which is leading to me wanting it in the moment. You have to begin, firstly, you need awareness, and then you have to begin rethinking these thoughts, right? Instead of worrying about your day count, you should worry about how I'm actually going to be happier without porn. It's not a challenge to abstain from porn. It's actually what I want to do. So then the day count doesn't really matter. Sure, I can look at it for fun just to keep a track, but it doesn't actually feel like a challenge. So I'm not hyper fixated on it. In terms of urges, you should just say, yeah, currently in this moment, I believe that watching porn is my best, happiest solution, but maybe I can reconsider that. You can just ask yourself, is there anything else I can do in this moment that would make me happier? And if you really think that through and consider your other options, then maybe you will find something. And what's more important is literally just reverting back to your old perspective of porn when you just discovered it, before NoFap. It might be really hard because, you've basically been brainwashed into a different ideology, but you should really just begin questioning and rethinking your past experiences with porn and back when you didn't feel as addicted to it. If you keep on overriding the thoughts you have regarding all of these things, you'll eventually drop all of the NoFap ideology and be a lot closer to quitting porn naturally and easily because you don't have these destructive beliefs running around in your mind. So now I'm going to share with you the simple yet unspoken thing NoFap doesn't tell you that makes quitting your porn addiction so much easier. And that is simply, you must want to quit. And this is based off of simple human nature. So human beings, we will always end up doing what we fundamentally want to do. Okay? So applying this to porn addiction, right? If you keep on relapsing over and over on porn, like most people on NoFap, that means that you actually want to watch porn. That's what you're naturally inclined to doing. So every attempt to avoid porn, to restrain yourself from porn, ends up failing because that's what you want to do in your mind. Now, a lot of people might deny this by saying, oh, I don't even enjoy porn. It's just so destructive to my life. However, your actions don't reflect that. If you actually hated porn and you didn't want anything to do with it, you would have been abstaining a long time ago. You would have hopped on NoFap and immediately got to day 1 million, right? But since you keep coming back to porn, that obviously means that it has something to give to you that you genuinely want. And it's something that you would prefer wanting over abstaining. Now, using this logic, we can actually end up wanting to abstain and then naturally quit porn without ever looking back. So to do this, we have to want to abstain, genuinely want to abstain. And the only way to do this is to devalue the pleasure we see in porn and increase or inflate the value we see in abstaining. So you have to question what porn actually gives to you. Like right now you see porn as this like irresistible thing that you like depend on for even an ounce of happiness. Yet there was a time when you just saw it as like this silly little thing that you wanted to see and were curious about. And really on top of that, all of the things you think porn gives you, it usually doesn't. Like because you've done it so many times, it kind of lost its novelty, it kind of lost its intrinsic value. Like if you eat a bite of chocolate cake, it tastes pretty good. But then if you eat 5,000 bites of chocolate cake, it isn't even enjoyable anymore. You feel nauseated, right? So it's kind of the same thing with a prolonged addiction to porn, right? You just become absolutely desensitized and it just doesn't hit the same when it did in the first place. And even when you began, you knew that it was just a fun, silly little gimmicky thing that you used to do in your free time. And you didn't really prioritize it over other things in your life. You didn't really let it get in the way of what you naturally wanted to do day to day. And on top of that, you have to inflate the value you put onto abstinence. Most people in NoFap, they don't really consider if they'll be happy abstaining. That's why when they go on a NoFap streak, they feel really deprived and just really depressed because to them, abstaining is just painful because they don't have porn, right? So you really need to flip that and make it so abstaining is more enjoyable than watching porn. And you do that by just being open to the possibilities of abstaining. A lot of people don't really flesh out what they would do if they actually had to abstain and not watch porn. They didn't think about how they would find happiness, find enjoyment, and how they would change their lifestyle. But if you were actually going to abstain, then you need to figure that out. You need to figure out how to live your happiest life. So you really have to contemplate possibilities, try new experiences, and compare that to your old life of porn, which you are also questioning the value of simultaneously. So if you do all of these at the same time, basically devaluing how much you want porn while inflating the value you see in abstaining, you should get to a point where you want to abstain, right? And if you want to quit, then you will naturally end up quitting. It won't be a battle, it won't be a fight, because it's what you want to do. If you do this correctly, you see more happiness in abstaining, so you'll naturally want to abstain, right? Even if you went back to porn, it wouldn't be as enjoyable to you. You'd immediately want to go back to abstaining. So I don't want you to just close this video and keep on going with your current life and falling into the same cycles of addiction, relapse, and following NoFap. That's why I set up some actionable steps so you can actually benefit from this video. So first of all, you have to begin rethinking your thoughts, specifically the thoughts that have been hijacked by NoFap. First of all, stop caring about your day count and instead try getting to the point where you want to abstain. If you focus enough on seeing more pleasure, more enjoyment in abstaining than watching porn, then you'll naturally want to abstain and you won't have to worry about your day count then. Instead of urges, every time you get an urge, you should tell yourself, okay, in this current moment, I just think porn is my most pleasurable option. And then from there, you can begin questioning and asking yourself if it's really worth that much. And finally, if you keep believing that porn is extremely valuable and pleasurable, then you have to just start questioning that and really think to your current experiences with porn and how enjoyable it really is for you, free of any other people's opinions on what porn actually is. And finally, you have to inflate the value of abstinence so you can actually want to abstain. So you have to consider the options and the enjoyment in abstinence. You have to create a vision, a lifestyle around abstinence, and prove to yourself that you'd actually be happier abstaining. And on top of that, you have to devalue porn. You have to break down the benefits you see in it and why those benefits aren't really there in the first place if you actually want to quit naturally. And if you follow all of those things, you'll be free from NoFap and you'll also be free from your porn addiction.